everybody, and welcome to PropTalk, a property management podcast powered by Resman. I'm your host for today, Megan Thomas, and I'm the content and social marketing manager at Resman. Thank you for listening to today's episode. We're calling it Personality Please, Websites That Show Off Your Properties. I'm so excited for this chat. Multifamily is obviously heading into a competitive year, and that means standing out is going to be everything. And so to highlight this better and give marketing leaders some insight into where they can attract more qualified leads and renters, we wanted to discuss one of the most important aspects of your marketing efforts, your website. So we have the perfect guest to do that, and I have invited Mateo Quintero, the manager of website design at Raz. So welcome, Mateo.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So Mateo brings over a decade of experience in the multifamily industry, leading the charge in user experience and user interface design efforts for the Raz CMS platform and the creation of stunning branding website projects and templates. He's a seasoned expert in digital marketing and branding with a track record that speaks for itself, having garnered multiple W3 website awards, which is pretty incredible.
It's been a journey, I feel like, in the last decade.
Yeah, I want to hear more about kind of your experience from the website design side and how you got into that, and then how that turned into multifamily websites.
Yeah, so my journey with, design and mostly, digital design, I always started, we can always take it back to, I'm going to age myself a little bit here and say the MySpace days when we would go into the CSS and try to make that page actually yours and unique and stylized it. For me, I was trying to go with that modern, chic, really Apple style of design. So that's where I was trying to minimize it, make everything white, really chic and nice.
Clean.
Yes.
I feel like I would have added you on MySpace if I didn't know you then, because that would have attracted me, honestly.
Oh, yes. And I was all the angles, all the picture angles.
I love it. I feel like, especially when it comes to website design too. And I never actually designed my own website. I had a personal blog that I would write from. And I remember spending hours just building templates, just making it as pretty as possible. And I'm not, I have no design expertise. I'm more of a writer. So I can think with a marketing mindset and when people are trying to consume something or go to something. And I feel like MySpace was the perfect way for anyone of any age to be creative and have fun with it. You had your songs, you had your top, 8 friends, or how many friends was it?
It was top 8.
Top 8, and right? You're really making someone mad.
It was always controversial, I would say. You always gotta make that top 9 person feel some type of way.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the ranking of it all is always controversial.
Yes, the only platform that will actually tell you to rank your friends, and you'll be okay to do it.
Honestly, they were trying to start some fights.
Right? They wanted some drama.
I'm sure that's where Real Housewives came from. That's where it started.
But I would say, even to what you were saying about a journal, even live journaling was a big thing back then.
It's true.
People live journal all the time. I was a big fan of live journal. I will try to be a poet. I did wrote some poems. They were not good, but
we had our I called it Sad Girl Summer,
Yes. I would say going to all of that, it's all about branding. How I feel like when it comes to MySpace, you were able to kind of brand yourself. And this is this is your room. This is your room, your high school room that you're trying to decorate with all the posters, with all the music on the side and everything. So it's that was, now you don't really see that anymore when it comes to social media. It's very, it's kind of, everybody is doing the same thing. You can brand yourself in some aspects of it, but I feel it's not as how it was back then.
There's not as much freedom with it.
Yes, I feel like you're contained to this box. And it's okay to be in a box, but sometimes back then you were able to go outside the box.
I think that is the coolest part about branding in general is the personality of it all, honestly.
Yes.
So when you started, obviously you started out just with the interest in website design, just from your own personal social media. How did you end up turning that into a career?
I will say it was my high school teacher, Ms. Helms. No, wait, what was her name?
She'll be so offended if you.
I know. I'm I'm so offended.
If she sees us.
Oof, I'm really blanking out on her name. And I'm sorry for her.
High school teacher.
My art high school teacher. She was instrumental when it comes to, giving me the freedom to actually go into digital space. I took in my high school we had academies, so I would say I was first in the medical academy, and I was like, hey, let me dabble into this.
Okay.
But then I quickly realized there's a lot of science involved, and I am not good with science.
Me either.
So my goal was to be a first responder back then. Then later on, I figure out the arts is where I'm at. This is, and particularly into design, digital design, is where my realm is. And I learned that really quickly in a young age. I was gravitating to learning softwares like Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop. I didn't have the money to buy the actual software, but I did. Will go out of my way to research it, torrent it back then. That's how you labeled it.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't get into it until COVID. And the amount of things you can learn on YouTube is pretty incredible.
Yes. I mean, we live in an age where everything is at your fingertips. So it's very you can search, go on YouTube and quickly learn a tool. Or let's say somebody tells you, how can you do this? You can go in there and find a tutorial somewhere online.
It's awesome.
Quicker. And that's where I guess I gravitated to. I was going into a lot of blogs and go researching, reading them how to do things, how to edit photos, how to create better art, and more I guess really trying to hone into that.
So you're self-taught when it comes to design.
Yeah,
mostly.
Yeah. It was mostly self-taught. Then I went college. It was mostly, I guess, kind of tailor it into seeing how I can make an actual career and a living out of it.
Did you study graphic design?
Yeah, I studied graphic design with a minor in marketing.
That's perfect.
That was
so
perfect.
There are very few people in marketing and any kind of marketing who got degrees within that scope. I've actually asked my network, how many of you are in marketing that got degrees in something totally different? So that's super interesting that you actually did what you studied.
Yes, I feel especially now you see so many people they're switching careers.
Totally.
And they're I guess you were telling me earlier, you're oh, my degree was in English and now look at you, you're doing it.
Yeah. And
I
scared my parents so bad too, because they were what is she going to do with this? This is horrible. She's not going to be able to do anything, but it's surprising. You can use it to write. So, and that was a job that was needed, but it's very rare that marketers end up actually having studied marketing.
Yes. And that was I guess when it came to design, I was okay, that was where I know how to use the software and I know my creative mind can use this and I can come up with awesome and I guess really creative ideas. But it was how to tailor that. And that's where the marketing came into it. And that's where I was I learned how the essence of what actually a campaign is, what is a marketing campaign,
and how a consumer is going to take in the content that you're creating.
And the journey, the customer journey, and all of these aspects that I guess kind of really hold into where I'm at now. I guess now I'm you mentioned, I'm a leader of the US UI when it comes to the interface of the RAS platform. And really, I'm able to understand the end user and really adapt into it, being okay, this is what she will need this will benefit them.
Right.
And how in an easy way for them to digest. Because that's the other tricky thing is how can you make something that somebody doesn't know easy for them to digest?
Yeah, true.
Because people get overwhelmed by just looking at 2 paragraphs of text. You get an email and you're just you see too long.
Yeah, even I do. If I see too much, I'm not going to read it.
Right, you get overwhelmed. So it's just so how to key the eye and really narrow down, being hey, this is how I want you to digest this information right in front of you.
It's so interesting because I am not a website designer, but I have assisted on website launches and was more so kind of, I would say, a consulting role when it came to that. I did some of the copywriting for it as well, but I remember in my first shot at doing that, I wrote so much copy. And then when I saw it all actually in display, I was oh, we have to bring this down, because despite having lots of imagery and iconography to bring people's eyes to the copy and read it, it was still way too much. And it's interesting when you step into the mind of how someone's going to actually take in the content, because that really is the general scope of marketing. You are constantly putting yourself in the shoes of the person who you're trying to reach.
Yeah.
And what's going, it's a lot of trial and error. Obviously, you can A/B test lots of things and you can figure out what's actually generating someone's attention. But at the same time, like you're kind of just constantly putting yourself in someone else's shoes, which is a very interesting mindset to get into when it comes to marketing, in my opinion.
Yes, and that is the aspect I feel like you need. Basically kind of like doing that step back and really put yourself in that person's shoes and be like, would they digest it? Would they understand it? And would they actually retain the information that you're putting in front of them?
True. Yeah, absolutely. So you ended up getting into agency life pretty shortly, like early on in your career, correct?
Yes. So
I don't know if you know this, but I started out in agency life too. Yeah.
I mean, I would say it takes a lot.
It's dog eat dog out there.
Yeah, agency life is tricky, and I would say it's a fast-moving industry that you're constantly long hours, you're working hard, but you love it because you see the vision and you're seeing that, like, I guess this is like you see the product from beginning to an end, compared to other ones that like so many people touch it. So it's such a small, intimate environment that you're actually able to kind of hone in on those skills that you actually retain. And as well as you're learning, like, because the curveballs, like you mentioned, the curveballs are there. So you're you're going to be learning so much from just.
It's like a constant being on your toes. And especially too, if you don't learn these things or get ahead or like make sure you're staying in the know about what's going on as far as not just with clients, but in general in the industry and with technology, like someone else will. It's pretty like, that's why I say it's kind of dog eat dog, but it's fun for those who love fast pace and you get that creative freedom, like you said. Like you get to see a project from beginning to end. That's a really fulfilling aspect of agency life that I think is underrated and a part that I probably miss a lot because it's fun. It's like these little projects become your baby a little bit.
The digital agency that we have various of clients because like digital agencies, you have so much to go from there. So one of our top clients was Lennar, mostly in the South region of Florida. So we were doing a lot of campaigns, digital campaigns to see how we can target. And one of the campaigns that stood out for me was a campaign that I was like, okay, I really believe in this actual vision. It was a mommy certified campaign. In the 2010s, we were doing some research and we narrowed down the actual decision makers of a family is the mom. So
more often than not, it's true.
More often than not. So you actually have to see how you can target them. And during the 2010s, blogging was a big thing.
It's true.
So we were like, okay, what can we do to actually have some credibility? Because we're like, how can we do word of mouth? So we got a bunch of mommy bloggers around the South region of Florida. And we were like, okay, come like build the actual homes and see if it actually is a toddler approved and all of those. And they give kind of like their stamp of mommy certified.
That's so fun. It's kind of a little influencer marketing a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Like the early days of influencer marketing. Yeah.
It's like, and like you need the big like celebrity to do it. Like you can do local people and like the word of mouth market, I feel like is always the way to go because somebody doesn't want to be just told information. You want to be like actually gravitating it.
People trust it.
Yeah, you're actually going to trust them more.
You know who I know would love that is Barbara Savona over at Sprout. She actually talked to us a little bit about kind of like their new approaches to influencer marketing. And for the 2010s, that was probably so successful because I remember mommy bloggers being, I wasn't a mom, but I was like reading a lot of that stuff because it was kind of like the big thing. It was like what everyone was reading. And there was like, stuff just outside. There was stuff outside of family stuff too that they would often share. Yeah. But I remember distinctly the popularity of it. So yeah, that's so cool.
We're taking over and actual results that people are actually like buying homes. So it was amazing because
that's creative. That's the kind of stuff that I honestly, sometimes I feel like there are a lot of things in multifamily marketing that naturally everyone's going to do, right? Like you have your ILS listings and you may even already like obviously have a website and things like that. But even just going a step further and making campaigns that are really creative and like just using kind of what the resources you already have, whether it's local influencers or organic social media, and just being creative about how you're sharing things with potential future renters. Like this is how you're going to get through to them, especially something that's a trusted source. Like in that instance, like in the local influencer kind of standpoint, that's the kind of stuff that, when it comes to choosing a place you're going to live, whether it's a single family home or multifamily apartment that you're renting, it's an important decision and people don't take it lightly. So, I mean, I've heard of micro-influencing, people getting into that more recently. That's why I say Barbara would love it. Well, I want to take a step back because obviously you made this mention of it whenever you were talking about your MySpace and how obviously you're turning your MySpace profile into a personal brand. But I think that obviously translates into multifamily and any sort of business, right? A brand is going to be the way that people view your company and the business that you provide. So what would you say branding is to you overall?
To me, branding is more than just a logo and a catchy phrase. It's overall view of the brand. So the visuals, you got them. But what is the step further more than that? Like, what are actually people thinking when they like see your logo? What are they actually when they see the name, like as Lennar, what is the first thing that comes to mind? And
True.
Like, or Restman, like what is the first thing that comes to mind? Software that is for you. Trying to connect everything and creating a story. And storytelling in digital spaces, especially just in brand in general, is so important because like at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We're telling stories, not just like I guess back with MySpace is more like your story, but like this is a brand story, this is a company, and to multifamily, this is a property. What is the property story? And that is what like I guess you need to narrow it down and figure out what was the story you're telling there.
Yeah, I kind of like that because honestly, summarized, sounds like branding really is just kind of personality. Like if you think about the way that we would describe each other to other colleagues in our network, like we might describe physical, emotional, mental, professional characteristics about each other, right? And all of those things can embody a personality. And you're right, branding is more than just kind of what you look like or what you sound like. It is, what is it actually making people feel? Yes. And it's in the negative sense, right? Like it could turn you off from a brand or a company entirely, right? You have one bad experience with shipping or on a product. And then all of a sudden, like when you hear that name of that brand, you get frustrated again. I mean, you're right whenever you say that it really is creating a way that people feel about your company and what they think whenever they hear your name. And kind of makes it a little nerve-wracking because like it's, it could be positive or it could be negative, and it's based on the story that you tell and the kind of the walk that you walk on a consistent basis, right? But even in a digital landscape, it's like, do I see this brand? Do I see this logo? Do I see this website and think, oh, this is inviting to me. This resonates with me.
Yes.
This is somewhere I see myself, which I think is kind of what we go into with branding with multifamily. So how would you say how multifamily branding plays a role in their relationships with renters?
That goes into mostly, I guess, the sense of community. People move in community basis. Like you're looking for where do you fit in. For instance, I'm a renter as well, and I'm renting I wanted a smart home. So I was like, I want everything to be connected, and like I'm a tech person, so I'm
so fair.
So we work in tech, right? I wanted everything to be able to be in the source of my hand, and I can like maneuver every.
And that was one of the number one things you were thinking about going into renting a home, right?
Yes, this time around. I mean,
yeah.
I guess. So I really wanted to see where I can where I can find a place that I I can like. My home, like my apartment, we don't have a key. Everything is code related and all of that. So
look at y'all.
Right? Even the AC is connected to my phone. So it's those aspects of it.
I'm so jealous. I want that. I live in Oklahoma. There's not much of that.
Oh, maybe it needs to come over here.
I know, for real. You're like, you've got me going, wow, it's so nice.
So it's just like seeing where you can find the target market, because like once you know your target market, that everything else comes into play and everything falls in pieces.
Kind of plays on the fact that every renter has different needs and priorities too. And so your brand kind of can all in one encompass multiple different kinds of needs or amenities or whatever it is that your communities or your properties provide, probably all in one go, right? Like that's kind of the goal, is you're casting a wide net And so maybe for you, the priority was a smart home, right? But maybe for someone else who's living on your property, like it was the location or it was the other amenities. It could have been something else, right? And so it's interesting to me how a brand can potentially cast a wider net than even just, right? Like if it was only people who wanted a smart home or a smart place to live, it wouldn't actually be encompassing all the great things that come with it probably, right? Kind of playing off of how branding is essentially how your target market is going to feel about you. When it comes to a property's website, how do you see or envision a property developing this personality or this showcasing of their brand onto a multifamily or property website?
So that's where I think once you already know your target market, once you already know what is your like unique features of your property, that is when you can showcase them and highlight them. So in like I guess when it comes to the website, I will say knowing, I guess, if you really want to target families, then all your visuals should be more targeted to families. If you're targeting young professionals, then target them. Like for instance, community events. In my case, we have like a monthly food truck that comes in every Wednesday, and what you do is like they give you like little coupons. You can go in there and like the discounted rate to that food truck, and like you're trying new things, you're trying new food, local food for the young professionals that do not want to cook that night. They're like, okay, maybe.
So true. It's honestly a good market to target. Or, having a what do you call it? Having a fold, like, am I thinking? Yeah, like having like a fold section that like highlights the community events that have gone on recently, right? Like those are eye-catching to me.
That is where, when it comes to website design, the tricky thing is how to make it personal. The message needs to be correct. Like if you're doing a college student housing, it needs to be more tailored to students. It needs to be more fun, more playful in that sense, as well as the imagery. Nowadays, people are hardly reading, and when they see a novel of text, this like you get overwhelmed and you're like, okay, I don't want to read that. So the visuals need to correlate with the message. And
absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I've seen stuff where it's like a photo of something that has nothing to do with what's written next to it. Yeah. And I'm like, what the heck? That makes no sense. Who put that there?
Right?
I'm sure you've seen way more than me. Way more horror stories of that.
Honestly, property images are always the best way to go. If you don't have that many, I will say use stock imagery.
So best case scenario is taking your own photography, professional photography. Second best case scenario is stock imagery because you still want it to look real to them.
Yeah, you want it to look real, and you don't want to like really the cheesy girl with salad. You don't want those type of stock imagery. You want them to be more candid photos. If you can look for stock images that are more candid, then that is the sweet spot. Because you don't want just like family in the living room just staring at the camera, because that's just like a family portrait.
Yeah, truly. And you're like, whose family is that? Right. Are they even really family?
Right? Like, who is that? Do they live here or do they not?
Yeah. I think that's actually a really good point, because when we talk about authenticity around a brand, and maybe this is, we might be a little biased because we're marketers, so we see it all the time. But I feel like when it comes to, especially multifamily, the authenticity matters a lot. And in a website with the imagery that you're choosing, keeping it as close to the reality as possible is super important. Like if it's not authentic and either they show up for a tour and it's totally not what they expected, or I mean, for me, even if I see a stock image that does look like the really staged, like you were talking about, I kind of go, okay, we just pulled that from Shutterstock, didn't we? Like you just can tell. But it's not the stock imagery is bad. It's just the choice of it. It's really like making something that is super parallel to what you're actually providing them as far as a community to live in, right? And that it looks like real people that live there, honestly.
It's adding that human aspect of it. Yeah. You don't want just like, I guess, a robot image of like...
People can tell.
Yeah.
They're not stupid.
I would say there's some imagery, and especially in the multifamily, that is like repeated. If you don't have the budget to buy stock imagery, free stock is amazing. But you're also running the risk of your competitor having the same image, and then you're just like, oh wait, whose website am I on? Because this is the same image that on both
That's a good
websites.
point.
I would say first, always video and the image of the property is the best. Then go into, if you have the budget to buy stock imagery, that would be great. If not, free stock is good. I would say just go more on page 4 or 5 when you're doing your research
Sure.
to find images. Because if you just get images from the main page,
and maybe you could even look at your competing properties websites and see what they have, and just, I don't know, keep a lookout. Make sure you're still standing out a bit from the crowd. Is what I would do.
Yeah, like do your research. Yeah.
Okay, when it comes to video, because I know this, and I think every marketer knows this, that video is way more eye-catching than a static photo or graphic or iconography. And that's simply because it's moving. But what do you see as far as video on a multifamily or a property's website? Like, what does that actually look like?
I would say mostly aerial views. If you can get a drone, that would be amazing. Like aerial views of the building. If you do have the budget and hire models, they can like be on the amenities. You can take some photos. So like I mentioned, it's that human aspect. It's like when you just, I guess, showcase a communal space. If you have people in there, that makes it more human, and people can actually interact and put themselves in that person's shoes.
Yeah, true. Envision them, even like envisioning themselves being there too. If it feels, again, more authentic, the more likely they are starting to get their wheels turning about envisioning themselves renting there, I would imagine.
That is the sweet spot. If you can do video, I will say do it, because nowadays, catching people's attention, you only have 8 seconds when they land on your page. And if they do see something moving, that is more grabbing their attention. I don't want to say we're toddlers, but we're kind of toddlers nowadays.
No, we are. I can't tell you, like, I talked about this with a friend recently, but just even Instagram and TikTok have ruined me because I don't have any attention span. And that was not me. I've never had like ADHD or anything like that. Like, and now I'm like, do I? Like, because if you don't capture my attention very quickly, I'm gone. And you got these people with like 3-minute videos. I'm like, I'm not watching all that. Unless you give me that first 8 seconds or like 10 seconds and it's interesting enough, I'm not watching all that. Same with copy. It's no different.
There's a story, like I guess, in recent social media, a girl that did a story about her boyfriend and how, her ex-husband, and how she didn't know who she married. She did a 20-part video, and I was just like, okay, this is... I mean, the story itself is like intense, and you're actually getting like, you're just rooting for this girl. You're like, okay, girl, like what is going on?
Yeah, perfect.
But now, like, I guess everybody's like, okay, this was the only time that we are able to allow somebody to do 20-part videos.
Oh my gosh, because everyone was so invested in it.
Everybody's so invested, but like, it's
so fair.
That is 8 hours of your life just watching a full story.
I mean, it's funny because I have a friend too, and she tells stories in it's actually, I think, a way that marketers could probably take notes from, where she starts with the ending. Like she'll say the ending and it's like dramatic, right? And she go, let me bring you back. And that brings me in, because then I'm like, how did we get here? Like, you know,
right?
Honestly, I think really what matters, and again, going back to what you said, is the beginning, whatever you're showcasing, your website, you're going to the homepage of your website, that first attention grabber is could make or break someone, like, you know, dipping out, whether they step away from their phone or their computer, or they go to another tab, or they look at another message. If that first 5 to 8 seconds isn't compelling enough to grab their attention's going elsewhere.
Yeah, they're going to another. And that is the thing, is first impressions matter. They always say, don't judge a book by its cover, but I'm like, you need to judge it. Like, somebody designed that cover, so...
Yeah, and also just knowing how everyone's attention spans are. Like, everyone's on Instagram and TikTok. I know all of your guys' attention spans are just as bad as mine at this point. Yeah. So it's just how it is.
It's just how it is. Like, I mean, you're gonna be... When something is in front of you, your first instinct is to, like, just analyze it and, like, really being like, okay, maybe this is not it. When you land on a website and there's too much text, or the hero, like the hero test is just like a long essay, you're gonna have people bouncing off. Like, the bounce rate is gonna be high. If you just do a small little introduction and then go and divide the content in sessions and make it more digestible for the reader, then that is where you want. You want to like get them to go past the hero. That you want them to land.
Like we always say, like pull them to move down the site or to go to other parts of the navigation bar. But mostly, you and I have talked about this when it comes to some of the websites we've done or worked together on in the last year. The goal should be to move them down and to keep, and naturally too, like it should be taking them on a journey down through the homepage and to the next thing, whether that's through a call to action or available unit, whatever, some sort of thing that's pulling them into things. And it shouldn't feel conscious. It should be natural in its design, right?
Yes. I mean, absolutely. I will say, I always do this analogy when it comes to website. I see them as like a full-on book. So basically, you have your hero banner where that's your cover, and then your first page is your full like front and back cover, because that's where you have in like the explanation, the summary of the book. And then every chapter is the navigation. So you have your amenities, your gallery, your neighborhood, your contact. And then there's that cliffhanger. The contact is where you want, or the apply now, that's where you want them to go, because that's where you want them to go to the next story.
Right. That's really the end of the book, and you want them. I love that. That's like a perfect metaphor, because it goes back to the storytelling, and that's ultimately what it is.
Story. So it's like it needs to be flowy. And there needs to be a flow to the madness.
I can get on board with that. Creative writer here. That is how I like to explain everything, because honestly, going to general storytelling, right? On the side, I'm a big movie critic and a TV show critic and a book critic. I love to honestly kind of tear these things apart. Yeah. But what captures me the most are ones that I don't even realize how they're pulling me in until I'm done, right? And by that time, and like, for example, with the website for a property, right? I'm at that point either filling out an application or scheduling a tour. And that's a really great way to like kind of view the journey of a consumer. Is you're essentially reading a story. It's just like if it were a bad movie, a bad website is going to make me want to walk out of the movie theater, or it's going to make me turn off Netflix. Same thing with the website. You have to see it as a book, as a story. And if it's not fluid, if it's not flowing, there's friction.
Even going back to the 20-part story that this girl did, is like that was captivating, and it captured so many people in story. Like now it's just getting national headlines and stuff. So it's just like...
It's true. Messy.
People love mess.
People do. It's true.
So it's being able to capture them. If it's not just with visuals, it's with the message, and tailor that and making it very unique, and like really what is the message and what is the story that you're trying to tell with this property.
I love it. That's so great. A great way to put it. I think marketers could really like put that lens on whenever they're refreshing or reviewing their website. Well, I wanted to go a little bit into kind of the nitty gritty when it comes to especially properties, right? Because there are ways that property websites can elevate some of those, let's call them chapters in the navigation bar, right? So their amenities or the units. Talk a little bit more about what is ultimately that step up that some of these properties can take to make their properties come to life with those details that are going to either get them to book a tour or sign a contract. What can they up level?
I mean, I can give you a whole list. But
here for it. Give me some.
There you go. I would say, honestly, first, the lack of visuals. Going back to what I was saying, having actual photography of the property is ideal. If you just have a website with stock imagery, the carryability is a little bit down when you land on it. Like, and that's where you don't want it. You want to be authentic. You want to be real when it comes to like what you're showcasing on your website. Another thing I would say is the lack of interactivity. I guess when it comes to what we do in RAS, we used to, I guess before RAS, there was RAS Interactive.
Right.
And we were focused most on the activity. We were trying to make digital experience work. So that's where, like, as we're making Back then, we were, I guess, called what we'll call now an industry disruptor. So we were one of the first that actually introduced live availability to multifamily.
Love that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's actually that's a cute history.
Cool.
What we were able to grasp that. That's when we came in and be like, okay, now you have a website that is just informative. You're just telling the user, being like, hey, this is what it is. This is the floor plans. This is the gallery. This is where you get contact us or go meet with the leasing agent and get more info. We wanted to take that middleman and take it the next step further and be like, okay, now you can envision yourself in this apartment by just looking at the sign map and being like, okay, I want this unit over here in the corner because I want a view of the lake.
So you're saying, and I think I've seen these, but the way that some of these websites can be designed is showcasing even where you would live on the property in that unit, right? So like if I didn't want to be near an elevator or a trash chute, that would show me.
Yeah,
like,
that will show you. That will show you which units are available.
That would have been nice before my last apartment. Thank you very much. Someone get on my last property's website, please.
There you go.
There you go. That's a subtle plug right there.
So yeah, I would say even, so it's kind of doing the full user journey just digitally. And that we were one of the first, not saying we were the first, but we were one of the first to actually introduce this to a couple of like big hitters like Wood Partners and Greystar.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I think especially it all, again, goes back to helping the potential renter envision themselves having a community like that or having like what it's like to live in a unit or live on a property. Because I think, again, it's what you said about eliminating the middleman or eliminating any discrepancies or things they might not know about until they live there or visit the property. It's kind of giving, hey, this is who we are, exactly for who we are. No surprises when you show up to the property.
No surprises in that, and going back to being authentic and showing what the real property is. So it's just like, in a way, a website should be should be your leasing agent as well.
Yeah.
Like, you should be like,
it's like your digital leasing agent.
Yeah, it's your digital leasing agent.
I love that. Honestly, that's cool. I like that. We're using that.
To piggyback on that, it's also as well as you need to think about mobile first. Like now in this digital age, most people are just like searching everything to their mobile. So if your website is not optimized or it's not user friendly for them to maneuver and like go through each page, then they're gonna bounce off and go to the next one.
Yeah, I can literally think of websites I've been to on my phone and it's set up for a computer and the text is tiny or I have to like zoom in because it's not set up for a phone.
Yeah, or the text is like going past the screen. So
or
you're
I can't
just like,
click anything. I'm like, oh my gosh, I must have sausage fingers because I am not able to click on this link.
Or yeah, I mean, there's so many times that like you forget to add the actual link to the button and like that thing. So it's like when you think about mobile first design, I feel like that is what we're gravitating for too. Because I feel like nowadays, most people are just looking at their phone and doing all their research through their phone. And nobody's flipping their phone. Everybody's just going in verticals, profiles.
Yeah.
So it's like,
what is it called? Yeah, portrait mode. Yeah.
Portrait mode. So it's just like, you're just navigating the whole website in this small little screen.
Yep.
So going back to the messaging, you need to be really careful when it comes to like overwhelming the user. So that goes like, it's either or. So you have to break the content, even on mobile, break it.
Just making it more succinct even. Like it doesn't, because I can imagine scrolling and if it's so much copy on my phone, scrolling on my phone, and if it's so much copy that it's taking up my whole phone screen, you basically may as well have handed me a Kindle like I'd be reading a book. That's what it feels like.
To add to your point, yes, when you have too much copy, and I understand like you need it for search engine optimization, SEO is so important. And
and to read, some of it needs to be read, right? Like some of it does deserve to be read. It's just how much.
How much? Yeah. So it's like finding that sweet spot. And if you do need to have this much content when it comes to writing, then divide it, put some visuals, put an image, put like branding elements to it. And that I feel like is another aspect that I feel like websites are sometimes lacking is the branding aspect, how to make it more personal. And we live in we're going into more template sized websites when it comes to multifamily. So it's like if your website is the same as your other property, what makes this property more unique?
And that's going to be super important, especially
Yeah.
this year, because with how competitive it's going to be, you're going to have to stand out, or else you're not going to get as much traction as you're not going to fill these vacancies. You're not going to fill these units if you're not getting their attention.
There is the Marriott hotel right now, just because I'm in one of them. I was just like,
Shout out.
shout out. I would say they do so great with branding when it comes to each city. Because like when you go to one city, like for instance, we're in Texas, we're in Dallas right now. The one I had an ad, there's like I guess paintings with like cowboy boots or hats, and it's more like it's
Yeehaw,
there you go.
Texas.
Texas. It's finding how to make it personal and actually reaching that target market. Like for instance, in Marriott, and you go to another one when you go to Seattle, there's a peak and all of those. So there's more branding elements to those cities.
Yeah.
So adding those maybe as well, I feel like even when we think about apartments, how to brand it, that's an easy way to brand it, is to brand it to the city itself.
I think that's such a good point too, because again, this is about knowing your audience, knowing your local community. And obviously we have lots of people listening and customers who have properties all over the country or in all sorts of different regions. And so when you're going through your websites, it is important that individuality, be picky, be choosy, and do it based on what your local community cares about and what they think about and what they're used to. Because if it's something unfamiliar, or you're just doing the same thing blanketed across all properties, then again, you're still not going to stand out. And you might even look a little tone deaf, if we're being honest.
Even to, let's say, you make all your properties, the branding be blue. How can one stand out? Yes, blue is an amazing color, but blue is also overused because it is that security when it comes to the psychology of the blue. Like, I guess, blue gives that security. You see it in a lot of tech as well as, I guess.
It is. It's honestly, you're right, overused a lot.
Yeah.
I see it everywhere.
So it's just
especially in multifamily.
Especially in multifamily. So it's just like how to differentiate. I'm not saying do the full rainbow, but maybe adapt into other aspects of the color and seeing.
Have a little personality.
Yeah.
Why not? Even just your secondary colors, use more of those. Obviously, I know a lot of properties, they might even have their own branding guidelines and stuff. And we're not asking you to go off the deep end, but there is ways you can add some flair, and it doesn't have to be in your face. If I pulled up a bright neon yellow website, oh my gosh, blinded. But you're right. There's a psychology behind, you're wanting to stand out. You're not wanting to be too in their face. And it sounds like you're finding this middle ground, but truly it is. It's look unique, show off your personality a little bit, but don't, maybe don't scream at them. Why are you? Stop yelling.
Yes, don't overdo. Don't do all caps.
Oh my gosh, all caps. Don't even get me started on all caps. No one reads in all caps. Take away all caps forever. This is me talking to you, multifamily. Yes. For real, no one reads that. Maybe 3 words. That's it. But if you're having whole sentences
in all caps, it's a big no-no. It's a big no-no for everything, because going back to how we read, it's harder to read a sentence when every word is capitalized. If you just do sentence cap, I feel like that is the sweet spot if you want to do it for titles. And then for body, just use normal paragraph text.
Again, yeah, you're right. Considering how the person viewing it is going to consume it. Again, if you have copy on there, and it's really important, we've already talked about this being succinct, right? And having a minimal amount, but obviously there's some importance to it. You want them to read it, or it should be information that you're wanting to give them, something that you see as valuable that you're presenting to a potential renter. So don't make it difficult for them to read with color, with all caps, with all of those things. Ask yourself and put yourself in the shoes of a renter. Would I even read this? Just blanketed. If I was not, it's hard to get outside of your own box, but You show it to a friend, show it to someone who has nothing to do with it and see how they're consuming it. I don't know, get outside of your own shoes and see if it's a way of, if a renter would actually read or consume or keep moving along in your website.
Yeah, it's mostly always do a step back. Always do a step back before you launch something.
Is more.
Less is more. And key on the unique elements of your property. Like if you do have an amazing, like I guess, community club room, showcase that. If you have, like I guess, heated pool, showcase that. Like really tailor the website to the audience and like try to see. Honestly, once you know who is the ideal renter, I will say always create a persona. That's why I was.
We love personas in marketing.
Personas in marketing.
That's kind of our life. That's our Bible.
That's our Bible because that is the way to always going back to me. Like, is this persona actually gonna be able to connect with your website?
Do they care about the things that you're putting in front of them? Like, if you're focusing on amenities or parts that like are things that they wouldn't care about, then they're not gonna notice it, and nor is it gonna keep their attention. It's all, again, going back to what's showing yourself off while also keeping the attention of a renter. And
be authentic and unique, I would say. Like, too many apartments out there are being named Infinity. We need to start with the word Infinity.
You heard us, Infinity people. Too much. Well, Mateo, this was super insightful. And I think obviously a lot of multifamily marketers and marketing leadership positions are going to have a lot to chew on to refresh their properties' websites going into the 2024 leasing season, which is super exciting.
Coming soon.
Shameless plug for Raz Websites. Head of design over here.
There you go.
But before
award-winning websites.
Award-winning websites. That's right. How could I forget? But before we go, this is my first time hosting. Elizabeth usually likes to ask our guests some fun questions, just a little get to know you. So I have some rapid fire fun questions for you. You ready for this?
Yes.
Okay. Dog person or cat person?
Dog. I have 2 dogs, Chanel and Ari. Love them. I'm a Cavalier person. If you know, you know. So
beautiful. Chanel and Ari, I love that. Okay, if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
I would say Steve Jobs, just because, look at how I'm dressed.
For real, you are Steve Jobs. That's a really good one, honestly.
No, yes. Just to get in that brain.
Expert.
Branding expert, made everything stand out. Like everything basically that he touched was amazing. I love those big Apple computers back in the day.
Yes.
I always wanted one. They were a little bit out of my budget.
No, but it was so beautiful to look at them,
right?
At least. No, I remember when I first started getting invested in marketing, I just went down a rabbit hole of Apple's like marketing and like the tables even being at the like average height to capture the most amount of eyes based on the average height of people. Just like they went down to the wire with product marketing and customer marketing. It was insane.
And now, hello. We're still using it.
Yeah. Look at us. Apples. Apple plug.
Apple plug.
Okay. Morning person or night owl?
I am a night owl. I get more creative at night. I love anything just to work on the nighttime. I am a little bit cranky in the morning.
No, I have an alter ego name for my morning person. So I'm on the same.
Before coffee, after coffee.
Before coffee, after coffee. Yes. No one's allowed to talk. No one's allowed to talk to me until I've had my Java. That's what I say. I get that from my mama. Okay, so then if you do caffeine, is it coffee typically your thing?
Yeah.
What's your coffee order then?
I am a Colombian, so coffee is a big thing in my family. We do coffee morning, afternoon, and for dinner as a dessert.
Oh my gosh, your guys' blood pressure.
Right now I'm like taking
to be fair, same.
But no, it's like as Latinos, we mostly are infused with it at this point.
Yeah.
My coffee order is a little bit plain in the basic side. I would say it's a venti vanilla soy latte. I do go
iced or hot?
Iced.
Do you do iced all year long?
Yes, I am. I'm also in Florida, so it's
true.
Summer.
That doesn't mean anything. There's no winter, really. Not official winter. Okay, that makes sense. I'm iced all year long, but we have actual winter, so people think I'm crazy
when you order.
So mean. But honestly, it's like, you know what I don't like? Because I like lattes and Americanos, but when I get lattes, I don't like hot milk. Like, I don't like milk being warm. That's a weird concept to me.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of
Like the foam.
Yeah, I prefer ice entirely. Like,
yeah, it's a texture thing, honestly, for me. Or like just, who drinks warm milk? It's weird. You guys are weird. Okay, so what did you want to be when you grew up? Like before the MySpace and digging into that. Yeah, like what was the childhood dream?
I wanted to be, and I feel like this is like a curveball to me, but I would say I was gonna be a musician. I really wanted to, and then I realized my voice is not for music.
Oh, you meant to like sing?
Yeah, I wanted to sing.
Were you the child that made your family sit down while you gave them a performance?
I will do the dancing, and I will do I was a good dancer. I would say every kid party, I was winning the dancing contest.
So fair. I can see that. I could totally see that. I love that. Okay. Well, anyways, thank you so much, Mateo, for coming and joining us for this episode. It was really great. And honestly, you have so much expertise. I've seen it up close, the websites that you do, and you help design. And obviously you and I have worked on some projects together, and I can attest that Mateo knows what he's doing when it comes to design. So,
oh, thank you so much. And you as well. I mean, you know, the things like marketing is your thing, and you know the in and outs.
It's fun. It's fun that we get to work together, honestly. We get along great, if you can't tell. Yeah, I think this will be super helpful to our listeners as you guys audit and refresh your properties websites and really take in some of those key points that Mateo brought up. You know, you're wanting to stay authentic. You're wanting to be succinct. You're wanting to be visually appealing, but you're also still wanting to portray that personality that's true to your specific properties website. So keep that in mind as you're trying to stand out among the competition going into this very competitive leasing season. We're rooting for you. Someone will end up on top. It starts with your digital storefront and your website. So thank you for listening to this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to PropTalk and listen to more episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to learn more about Resman or RAS websites, you can visit the links that I have put in the description. Either way, we're glad you joined for today's episode and can't wait to have you back for the next one. Thanks for having me as a first-time host on PropTalk, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.